Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking into a chemical engineering question from GATE 2019, question number 40. In the drying of non-dissolving solids at constant drying conditions, the internal movement of moisture in the solid has a dominant effect on the drying rate during dash. And there are four given options. A. The initial adjust period only. B. The constant rate period only. C. The falling rate period only. And D. Both the initial adjustment and constant rate periods. So this is a question from drying part from mass transfer, and the reference NPTEL lecture series can be found in lecture 1 of week 3, mechanism of drying and drying equilibria, drying rate curve, mass transfer operations 2 by Professor Chandan Das, Department of Chemical Engineering, IIT Guwahati. So for this, let's first draw the equilibrium curve. So we have the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis is the moisture content and the y-axis is the rate of drying. So the flat line is the constant drying rate and the sloped line is the falling rate. X star is the equilibrium moisture content and XC is the critical moisture content, which starts from the falling rate. And the flat line, as I said, is the constant rate, and the sloped line is the falling rate. So let's assume a wet solid. So on a wet solid, there exists a very thin layer of moisture or water on the surface. So there is a thin film or a thin layer of water on the surface of the wet solid. So this constant rate regime represents the drying of this thin film of water which is present at the surface of the wet solid. So this moisture is also known as unbound moisture. So this happens in the constant rate regime. Now let's assume the same solid. Once the film on the surface is dried, then we go for the moisture which is present in the bulk of the solid. So this moisture has to come out from the bulk or the insides of the solid to the surface, and then it has to get dried out. So the moisture inside has to come out to the surface, and this happens either by diffusion or by capillary forces. So this happens in the falling rate regime. So in the falling rate regime, the moisture which is present in the bulk has to come out either through diffusion or capillary forces, and this is generally referred as internal movement of moisture. So this internal movement of moisture happens in the falling rate regime of drying. So the correct option here is option C, the falling rate period only. Thank you.